Okay, he's good.
Thank
There
you.
we go. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us today. I wanted to touch base with you about some of the things just going on in our country right now. Specifically, we have a court appearance this afternoon for the suspect accused of killing Charlie Kirk. Can you talk to us about where we stand as a nation and all this political violence, but also all of this hate towards each other that we're seeing between people at home on social media, in their neighborhoods? This has really divided our country for now.
And it hurts me personally at the core. When I went to Congress 15 years ago, we were in one of these very sad phases. I can remember going to events and literally having people shout at me even before I had a voting record. So there has been definitely a polarization. It's more vitriolic. Both the House and the Senate, as well as we've seen this in state houses as well. There has been a lack of civility. There's just been a very, very sad time. And I think we need to get to a better place. I have always tried, despite the fact that I'm a conservative Republican from East Tennessee, to try to be civil with people with whom I have disagreements or agreements. Even within our party, sometimes there are disagreements. And I think that's good for our republic. What is not good is when we see it escalate into political violence with the Charlie Kirk situation, with the situation in Minnesota, where Democratic lawmakers were gunned down. Political violence is never good and must always be condemned. What concerns me right now is, and I see it and I feel it at home. I have been the victim in 2017 of political violence on the ball field when I was shot at, not hit. Other people were. But even the other day, I was home in Chattanooga, and candidly, 99.9% of the people, our constituents, are so nice, whether they agree or disagree. And I love people, so I talk to them. But every once in a while, people just say things that are just so hurtful. And I believe in the First Amendment. These are not violent threats, but just that lack of civility. I would have never said that when I was a younger person to a member of either political party. So we've got to work to get to a better place.
And speaking of the First Amendment, we've seen professors and other staff members at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, Middle Tennessee State being fired for some of their comments about Charlie Kirk's passing. Where do you think that line has to be drawn? And do you think firing people for their speech on this topic is viable?
We've seen it in academia. We've seen it in the media, even in our own media market in Chattanooga. Let me say this. The First Amendment is alive and well, and we need to have great discourse. We need a free press. We need the ability for people to peacefully let their ideas known. But the reality is, when somebody makes a comment that is so outrageous. And for anybody to champion violence or in any way basically give credibility to what happened to poor Mr. Kirk or to anybody who is a victim of political violence, that hurts me. And I think it speaks ill of where that person is. So I do support the terminations. The reality is, again, how did we ever get to a place where somebody in a position of authority or not could even find that palatable? It's reprehensible. Sadly, that the video where Charlie Kirk was shot, the graphic nature of that, a lot of people have seen that and have been so traumatized by the grotesque, dire nature of that. Again, I'll give you a very good story. My dad was an Eisenhower Republican. My mother was a New Deal Democrat. My dad did not vote for John Kennedy. My mother did. My father always used to tell me that one of his saddest days in his life was when President Kennedy was assassinated. And I said, I can remember as being a little boy. I said, but horrible, and you didn't vote for him, you didn't like him. He said, wait a second. This was a wonderful, beautiful man who was president of the United States. I would have never voted for him, but I would have never wanted harm to come to him. And we saw Ronald Reagan go through an attempted assassination. Other folks have, Donald Trump. But regardless, Republican or Democratic, we've got to protect our officials. People have gotten on me, not your wonderful network, but I'll be honest, the folks at Channel 3, I'll call them out in the Times Free Press for not having a town hall. The reason I don't have town halls is because of the violence. There's a way to deal with things. I meet with constituents by the thousands, but it's got to be peaceable and the like. I'm not going to go in and put any constituent on the right or the left and make them subject to violence at these shouting sessions where people are just saying terrible things and the tempers flare and the like. There's a way to do this. First of all, it's at the ballot box. People need to vote. I tell people all the time, if you disagree with the way I vote, and I've got one of the highest voting percentages in Congress, bar none, take it to the polls. If you agree with me, please vote my way. But I don't want to get into a room and be shouted at or shout at and let anybody, we've seen this across the nation where sometimes innocent people are harmed at these events when that violence escalates. We don't need that in America. We need good debate. We need good peaceable debate. And we're not there now. The tempers are too hot. So we've got to tone it down. There is going to be a big bid for safety for members. The president has asked for a lot of money for the safety of members. I'm probably not going to oppose that. I don't have a security detail. I'm by myself, okay? And I walk around many times by myself. Does that concern some people? Yes. Does it concern me? No. But I don't want to see any member of Congress, Republican or Democrat, many on both sides, 60 Democrats and I think 14 Republicans have asked for security help. I respect their position in that because I don't want anybody hurt or harmed. But for our citizenry, let's get our hearts and minds together and let's get to a better place.
Let's shift gears a little bit now to Memphis and the call for the National Guard there. I know you support that move. Governor Bill Lee has been on the record as the same. Why do you think that's needed there in Memphis?
As you will know, I'm a lawyer by profession. And I go back to my first day in law school at the great University of Tennessee College of Law in criminal law class. They talked about crime. Now, obviously, if someone is a victim, a person of a violent crime or a crime, it's a horrible thing. A criminal, somebody does something to that person. But that crime is something more than that. It's against our society as well as against that individual. Let me be specific. When we see a criminal case brought as opposed to a civil case, it's the state of Tennessee versus defendant, the United States versus defendant, city of Chattanooga against the defendant, right? Because that crime is against society. In communities like Memphis, which has one of the worst crime rates in the country, which is so sad in our great state of Tennessee. But whether it's Memphis, Chicago, Washington, D.C., where I spend a lot of my time, that's where I am right now, we want our citizens to be free from crime. Nobody should have to live in fear and be subject to criminal activity, especially when it's violent criminal activity. We've got, again, to get to a better place. There's been far too much concern for the criminals, those who commit the crime, in my lifetime than the victims of crime. And it's time that we stand up for the victims of crime. That's why I support Governor Lee and Donald Trump doing this in Memphis. I supported this in Washington, D.C. We've got to, again, address why are people doing this? And if they do it, there's got to be consequences. There are cities where violent criminals commit acts and they're let out on the street, sometimes not with even a bond or bail. It's ridiculous.
And what do you say to some of the people in Memphis, some lawmakers there who said that this is undermining the Memphis Police Department?
I would say that they have failed abysmally with the highest crime rate in America. The results are there. I fully support law enforcement in what they're doing, but if they're failing and the crime rates, particularly the violent crime rates, are going through the roof, and honest, good, loving citizens cannot feel safe in their communities, we have got to step in and fix this. Crime against one of our citizens is against all of our citizens, in my view. I want Americans to feel safe in their homes. I want them to feel safe in their churches. I want them to feel safe in their schools, because that's what I think government ought to do. Keeping our citizens safe is job one. If they're failing, we need to fix it.
And then finally, the energy and water bill
Yes,
that
thank
you're
you.
behind. Can
Thank
you
you.
talk
My
about,
bill.
yep, how that will affect people here at home in Tennessee?
Okay, thank you. As most of our folks know, I am the chairman of the Energy and Water Subcommittee of Appropriations. I wrote the Energy and Water bill. It passed in full committee. It passed on the House floor. Uh, so now it's in a position to be conferenced with our friends in the United States Senate and hopefully ultimately before the end of the year signed into law by President Trump. First and foremost, on the water side, and most everybody knows I'm America's energy congressperson. Okay, that's what I do. I'm known on both sides of the aisle for energy, energy, and energy. But it is the energy and water bill, and I'm so glad you talked about that. The Chickamauga Lock has had problems again. I fully funded it over 6 years ago. A couple of years ago, the Army Corps of Engineers came to me and said we needed more money. I appropriated 238 million more dollars for that project. We thought that would be enough. They came to us again this year. In that bill, I was asked, and I did it because I'm chairman, it's my bill, and I will always stand up for my constituents, $261 million to complete that project. That's why it's important that that become law. Now, my passion, energy, energy, energy. The 2024 bill that we passed was one of the best energy and water bills that the country had ever seen. Last year, we failed in 2025 because we had a continuing resolution for the entire year. Lost all that progress in many ways. This bill fully funds American dominance in energy, not only nuclear, but all forms of energy. It's going to put America in the position and our great state of Tennessee in the position to lead. In addition to the energy and water bill, I chair 8 energy related caucuses. My newest one is the American Dominance and Energy Caucus. If that sounds familiar, the White House has an analogous group that Senator Burgum and Chris Wright are on. Same name, different focus. Mine is fully bipartisan. I have Republicans and Democrats working together, and I stress this all the time on energy dominance. We can't fail. So, to answer your question, what my bill does is it ensures that America will be in a position to meet its energy needs. Most of you know I fully support TVA and will continue to do so in its current form, in a public form. Some of my colleagues respectfully disagree with me on that, but TVA gives us low cost, reliable energy. There needs to be some changes there. They are working on that. We've got 5 board nominees. 3 of whom are Tennesseans, which is great. I hope we can get another 4th Tennessean on there because it serves 7 states. I'm a Tennessean at heart. But the reality is my bill ensures domestic energy dominance for not only the 3rd district, but for the whole country.
Um, all right, sir, anything else you want to talk about? We've had a lot of topics today.
I just want to say thank you for your coverage. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I did make a renewed claim to the White House this week for the Congressional Medal of Freedom for the Andrews Raiders. If you recall, we worked for years to get the Congressional Medal of Honor for those who were in the military, who were interred actually at our great national cemetery. I was just out there the other day. But 2 of the civilians, including Andrews, was left out. So those 2 are out there. I'm asking the White House to do that. Of course, posthumously, but they did that with the Medal of Honors as well.
Right, great. Josh Rowe and I, my coworker, talk about that a lot and all the
Oh,
stories he's
Josh,
had
I
on that.
said
Yeah,
hello. He's outstanding.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, sir. Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Okay, bye-bye. You
Bye.
too.